Super excited to be here with one of my students, Sydney. We have been working together for a few years now. I started working with you when you were in high school and now you're in college. What has your experience been like with school? Did you like school? Did you not like school? What did you struggle with? What did you not struggle with?
So most of my life, I've been pretty much a C average student. I knew I was bright. My parents knew I was bright, but I just really struggled with very basic skills. My sophomore year, it became very clear that I needed additional academic support, and that's when my parents sought out Untapped through a friend. I was really reluctant to it at first. I thought it was just going to be really intensive tutoring, and that wasn't what I needed. But upon beginning with Untapped, it became clear that I was lacking in a lot of areas. When I came to Untapped, I didn't love school, but I didn't hate it. It was very much a love-hate relationship. I liked some classes, I hated other classes, and my grades were about average. I mean, sophomore year was really, really difficult for me. I barely scraped by sophomore year. I began junior year as soon as I started working with Untapped, and through working with Untapped, I went from not only not liking school, but also having poor grades to really liking school, really liking learning, and having the grades that reflected that. I mean, school throughout junior and senior year became my favorite thing. People joke about hating Monday mornings. I loved Monday mornings. It was the beginning of the school week, and I loved the school week. I loved learning, and I loved having work that reflected my love for learning. And that's really continued all the way through high school.
For families that are wondering, how do we build a relationship with students? How do we make sure that students don't hate coming here? Number one for me is making sure that my students are heard. My job is not to just talk at you and give you advice. It's to help you feel good about what you're doing and help you build some skills that will make you feel less stressed.
I think the biggest thing that helped me to feel more comfortable was recognizing that I wasn't being forced to do anything. If I came in one day and I didn't want to work on a specific thing, like I don't want to talk about math today, I just want to talk about my history class, we didn't have to discuss a specific thing. I wasn't being forced to work on something that I didn't feel like I needed to. And yeah, basically it wasn't tutoring. That was a big thing that I knew that I didn't want. When students hear, you're going to be working with a mentor one-on-one, it's easy for them to think, oh, I'm just going to get a tutor. That was the biggest thing for me, was coming to understand that that's not what this is. I think if students knew that going in, they'd be a lot more comfortable and less reluctant to letting loose here.
It's been a few weeks where it was a lot of me listening before I started giving you advice, and we could work from there. Do you have any memory of anything that we started working on that helped calm some of those stressors?
For the second half of my high school career, I was working with the disability services program at my high school. I was in their class that they had for students that needed additional academic support. I remember one of the first things that we did was figure out how to utilize my time within that class to get myself organized, actually using that class time for something productive instead of just scrolling on my phone, actually being able to sit down and organize work that I was going to do during that class period, teachers that I was going to talk to, and just being productive, getting stuff done, and utilizing valuable time that I wouldn't have used before.
You have grown tremendously since I first started working with you. What are some of the skills you think that you've picked up that have helped you just have some of your life a little bit more manageable?
I'd say the biggest thing, as per the mission of Untapped, is the growth in my executive functioning skills. I never knew that one could be lacking in those skills because I didn't know what those skills were. And then working with you, I began to realize, oh, it's not normal for people to not know how to manage their schoolwork. It's not normal to just not know how to organize your life in general. Being able to learn those skills, I'd say, has probably been the most, honestly, life-changing for me. Yeah, learning my executive functioning skills, learning how to advocate for myself in and out of the classroom, which is a huge thing, especially now in college. I have to do a lot of advocating for myself. Those, I'd say, have been the two biggest things.
I know that you do so much advocating for yourself. That can be really intimidating for a lot of people, right? You need to know what to ask, how to ask for it, when to ask. Are you going to email people? Are you going to show up in person? How have you gotten better at some of those skills? Or what do you still find intimidating, but you've just found a way to manage?
I'd say the thing that I find the most intimidating is knowing that somebody might say no to me, knowing that somebody might come to me and say, I know that you're asking for this, but we're not going to help you, which I didn't encounter much until college. The biggest things for me when it comes to advocating is, like you said, knowing who to talk to, when to talk to them, knowing what you need to ask for. It is scary. A big thing for me is I had to stop worrying about annoying people and stop worrying about whether or not somebody was going to not want to help me or get frustrated with helping me, and just recognizing I know what I need and it's the administration's job to help me. That's what they're there for. It's hard to do that. It's hard to take the initiative and step up and speak for yourself. It's a life skill. It's a skill that you're going to use a lot as an adult. It's an important one to develop, especially if you're a student that needs more support throughout school.
Can you give any specific examples about some of the things that you've had to advocate for? Maybe ones that have turned out really well for you and ones that haven't turned out as well for you in the past.
In high school, a lot of the advocating that I did was surrounding individual assignments. If I needed an assignment to be presented to me a different way, say, for example, we were going to be taking an exam and it was going to be a multiple choice exam, but I really do much better with essay exams, asking for that. Also explaining why this thing is helpful to me and why I'll struggle more with the other thing, I have found has been super helpful. If the teacher understands this method of examination is not going to be an accurate reflection of the student's abilities, that's been a big thing. I'd say the biggest thing in college has been advocating with student disability services. I need a lot of academic accommodations. That has been huge. There have been lots and lots and lots of discussions surrounding what accommodations I need. It's not necessarily given out on an individual basis. There's kind of a standard algorithm for accommodations, and that can make it difficult when one student needs a specific thing and another student doesn't. I've had to do a lot of work with my advisor at CU, just having the same conversations over and over and over again, being like, this is what I need. This is what I don't need. This is why I need it.
That takes a lot of adapting when you're told no or maybe to try and come back with something that might work, right? Which I know that you've done a really good job of, but it can be a bit of a frustrating process and it's a long process. It takes a lot of insight on your part, a lot of self-reflection to know what you need, why you need it. Same for high school. Even just beyond developing advocacy skills, sometimes you have to go back and develop things like self-reflection skills first, so that it's not just me giving the words to you to go talk to someone about it. You actually understand why you're going to ask for those accommodations. You're a student at CU right now. What are you studying and why did you decide to study that?
I am a psychology major. That was pretty much a no-brainer for me. I've known for a while that I wanted to go into psychology. As I said, I'm a disabled student. I'm autistic. I have ADHD and anxiety, and that is a really aggressive combination of conditions. Yeah. That for me, it really just fueled this intense desire in me to understand my brain, understand the brain of others like me, what makes us tick, how do we work. It just led me down the path of psychology. I had learned a lot about psychology even before it was my major. It has for a long time been something that I was super passionate about, and I just really didn't have a label as to why. But in the last couple of years, as I've learned all this stuff about myself, it just really kind of became more and more clear to me that this is what I want to study and this is where I want to go.
And you have really clear ambitions, not only to understand yourself better through psychology, but also to potentially make some institutions better for other students that are like you, right? Or just find ways to make life better for other people.
Absolutely.
College is a really big transition. It can be scary for you as a student. It can be scary for your parents watching you go do it. In order to be successful with that transition, you have to build independence. What are some of the ways that you think that you've built independence, both starting in high school and now, in order to be successful as a college student?
I think this, again, comes back to executive functioning skills. Since working with Untapped and working with you in particular, and just growing as a person, being able to break something down and work through a problem instead of just, for lack of a better word, giving up. Before developing those executive functioning skills, it was not at all uncommon if I didn't understand something for me to just kind of sit back and say, well, I don't get it now, so I'm just probably never going to understand it. Now I know how to stop, take a deep breath and say, okay, how can I break this down into more manageable parts? How can I break down this assignment? How can I break down this difficult task into bits and pieces that I can complete on my own? For a while, that was something where I'd call you and I'd be like, I need you to help me break this down. And I do still do that for more complicated stuff, but I can much more easily look at something and figure out how to deconstruct it into something that I can actually handle and something that I can work through.
Yeah, or even if you can't get yourself all the way there, you call me to fill in some of the gaps. Like you still understand how to approach it, or understanding what it is that you're having trouble breaking down. You can ask me specific questions now instead of just being like, I don't know how to do it at all, and having me help you figure out what exactly is going on. I hope that one of the ways that I helped you build independence is just making sure that your parents aren't super stressed about you all the time. One of my roles is to have them put trust into me and what we're doing in our sessions so that you have the opportunity to build independence without your parents worried about you completely failing. I mean, did you see that at home with your family at all? Did it change some of your relationships at home?
Absolutely. Before working with Untapped, I was more or less hounded by my parents. They were your very stereotypical, helicopter breathing down your neck. Your grades need to be A's and B's, stuff like that. I was really surprised when all of a sudden, even though I may have been struggling in school, they weren't breathing down my neck. They trusted that the work that I was doing in here was going to pay off and things were going to get better. And thankfully, that has continued through high school and into college, where they know that I may be struggling, but they're not necessarily going to attack me for it. They do have a tremendous amount of trust in the relationship that we have and the work that we do.
And even if you're struggling in something now, hopefully the view is you are working to overcome a challenge versus worrying that you just don't have any skills to attack the problem that you're facing.
I won't lie, it has definitely been very challenging in ways that I didn't expect. I went to a college prep high school, so I was well prepared in an academic sense. Adapting to the amount of work that I have to do and the rigor of the course load, that hasn't necessarily been difficult. It was the other things I didn't expect, like having to plan out my day. When you're in college, your day is structured so much differently. There's nobody telling you what time you're going to wake up, what time you have to be at class. In some cases, you're deciding whether or not you're even going to go to class. And then you're deciding, when am I going to do homework? When am I going to eat? When am I going to sleep? When am I going to socialize with friends? There's all of these different parts of your day that is now left up to you and you get to decide. And that's something that I hadn't really given much thought to. So when college started, I would go do my homework. I get all that done. And then I'm like, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my day? It's not like the bell's going to ring and I'm going to go home. I'm at home. I'm in my dorm. How am I going to spend the rest of my time? That was something that has definitely taken some time to figure out just how to manage that time. You have so much more of it. And like I said, there's nobody telling you what to do and when to do it. That's all up to you now. It's kind of dipping your toe in the water of what it's going to be like in the real world when you do have to plan out every portion of your day, when you have a job and a whole life to manage outside of school.
One of the skills that I know that we have been working on a lot recently is study skills. You have a lot of skills that you've gotten really good at, right? For study skills specifically, what are you finding challenging about it? And can you just give a perspective on how long it takes to build some of these skills? Because I know we've been working together for a while now, a couple years. So how long do you think it might take you to build a skill like study skills?
I'd say study skills has definitely been the most difficult for me. That's something that we didn't even really get a chance to work on until very recently. There was so much other stuff that had to happen before that. So study skills have been hard. I've never been a person that has just been able to sit down and look at material and just be able to absorb it into my head. I have had a hard time figuring out, how do I study best? What methods work for me? What methods don't? It's an area in which I've definitely struggled. We have done work creating study guides. Do we review this material with flashcards? Do we talk about it with a tutor? Things like that. I think it's really a process of elimination, of just looking at all your options and seeing what works for you and what doesn't. For some people, it might click really easily. They might just be able to study with flashcards and that's enough for them. For other people, and in this case, me, that's not how it is. We've had to try a lot of different stuff just to kind of see what sticks.
And just for perspective, as me as a mentor, we approached study skills a few different times when you were in high school and then very quickly decided that that was not the priority, right? You can't always jump to the next set of skills until you have a foundation laid. We were constantly trying to see, we know that you need to do well on this test, but we have to focus on routine so that you don't go to bed at 6 a.m. before we can move on to, should we do note cards? Should we do a study guide type of thing? You're a student athlete, you attend classes and you have a job. How do you manage those things? Also, you being a student athlete, you work with horses, which means it's not just walking to a field that's right next to your dorm, right? You have to drive far. It takes a long time. What are some of the systems that you put into place to help manage that workload in your life?
I'd say hands down, the biggest thing for me is routine. I'm a person that really thrives with a routine. Blocking out my time to say, I'm going to do this at this time, this at this time, and this at this time has really been huge for me. When I'm creating my routine, I ask myself, how much time do I need to do this homework? Factoring in driving time. How long is driving going to take? How long am I going to be at work? How long am I going to be working with my horse? And sticking to that routine has been huge. And just little things like having a consistent work schedule, really being explicit with my boss, like I can only work these days at these times because I need to have my routine. My life needs to be organized. When you're juggling as many things as I am, it can be really difficult. Just just creating a solid, steady routine and sticking to it as much as possible has really made things easier for me with high school to college transition and managing so much more in my life.
Yeah, anything you can do to make your life more predictable will reduce some of the stress that you're already having to manage a lot. Sydney, thank you so much for sitting down to talk to me. I really appreciate you sitting down for an interview and answering all these questions and being so open and honest. I know that not everyone feels comfortable enough to be quite so open and honest about their experience, so it's wonderful that you were. Hopefully this was helpful for someone watching this.
Absolutely.
Have so much on your spring break.
Thank you.